Okay, so we're sitting here with Pratik Gandhi, and we're talking a little bit about Hansel and Gretel, the upcoming concert for Symphony on the Bay. First question for you is, how did this concept come about, and why Hansel and Gretel?
Last year we tried to do a little bit of a family-friendly concert. We had the Carnival of the Animals and the Nutcracker Suite, and we had dancers and we had art and we had things that we thought would, and of course the young artists last year, that would make it very accessible to all ages of the family. And so I thought I'd try and do something like that again this year. And I saw this almost the same cast of this production do a production of Hansel and Gretel with piano, and I thought it would be a great way to introduce our audience to something a little bit different, a different Christmas time tradition, but one, again, that would be very accessible to all ages.
So when people see the word opera, sometimes they get a little bit nervous in the stomach. I've run into this.
Yeah, fair enough.
People are nervous that they won't understand it or they won't know what's going on. So what kinds of things are happening so that we'll have people with us and they'll know?
Well, this Hansel and Gretel, first of all, we're going to be singing it in English and not in the original German, so it should be fairly easy to understand. Hansel and Gretel also is a reasonably well-known fairy tale, I think, so the plot won't be hard to understand. But also we're trying to sort of move away from the typical opera and concert model where it's just the orchestra with the singers singing sort of from the books and just sort of standing there and singing. We're going to have costumes, we're going to have some set pieces, we're going to have some lighting stuff going on, and to try and make it sort of more of a visually appealing experience for the audience.
And maybe you can talk a little bit about the children's program that's happening.
Yeah, so before the concert at 2:30 in the lobby, we're going to be doing a program for children where they can sort of get to know a little bit about the opera and about opera in general. And there will be a bit of an interactive activity for them to complete that will sort of familiarize them with the plot. It should be really exciting.
Yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about the music itself?
Where this came from was in 1893, which was 120 years ago, exactly, as I learned recently. Engelbert Humperdinck's sister wrote a number of children's songs based on the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale, and she asked him to sort of write piano music and so on for it, and it just sort of developed into this larger scale piece and eventually became an opera. But those children's songs are still in the opera. You can hear throughout the opera there are a number of very sort of folk song sounding sections, and those are her creations that he sort of incorporated into the opera. So that's really cool. And he's managed to merge sort of the high-level sort of operatic orchestral writing of Wagner and other people who were writing at that time with the simplicity and the folk song style of the songs that his sister wrote. So it's a really cool integration.
I think some people might wonder how long it is going to run because they might have children they're trying to gauge whether they could handle it or not. So what's the running time?
It's not nearly as long as a typical opera. Mozart operas can run 3 or 4 hours, but this is only going to run about just over 2 hours, including the intermission. So the first half will be just about an hour, and the second half will be under 45 minutes.
So I understand that the third act has a children's chorus. Who will be singing that?
We actually have 3 separate choirs that are going to be joining us for the third act. We have the members of the Oakville Children's Choir, members of the Hamilton Children's Choir, and then the Spurrell Studio Chorus as well.
That's awesome. And then I think in the pantomime, isn't there a group coming for that as well?
Yeah, the Stars Academy dancers will be joining us. So it's a pretty large production overall. It'd be 120 odd kids in the choirs, and I think 10 to 15 dancers, and 65-piece orchestra, 7 soloists, so it's a pretty big deal.
And the last thing, can you just tell us a little bit about how you're involved in the orchestra? What's your role in the orchestra?
So I'm the assistant conductor, so I assist Jim with the programming for the orchestra, and then I also have a couple of concerts during the year, and I'm more heavily involved in a couple of other programs like the Young Arts Competition and so on. But
okay, thank you so much.